Acts chapter 10 deals with the gospel given to the Gentiles. Many believe that Cornelius is a Gentile, but he's not. In fact, he's an Israelite. I did many videos on this, but I cannot do enough, so let me prove this once and for all. Acts chapter 10 verse 2. You see here it says Cornelius was a devout man. Let's look at Acts chapter 2 and 5 as a precept. You can see in Acts chapter 2 and 5, devout man here. Acts 2 and 5, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout man out of every nation under heaven. This is dealing with in Acts chapter 2, Pentecost. And you can see that there was Jews that came to Jerusalem from many places. Devout man. Let me give you another precept. This is Acts chapter 12 and 22. It says, and the people gave a shout, saying, it is the voice of God and not a man. Acts 22 and 12, I believe. This is backwards. Let's go to Acts 22 and 12 instead of Acts 12 and 22. Now we on point. It says, and one, Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there. So he was a devout man as well. Ananias in the Greek, 367. Ananias was a certain Christian at Jerusalem. The husband of Sapphira says a Christian at Damascus. We know that's not correct. They were not called Christians. They were called the saints. Now look down here. It says the Hebrew origin. It's Ananias, the name of 3 Israelites. Ananias was an Israelite. Ananias, the name of 3 Israelites. In fact, it was 3 Israelites by the name of Ananias. So Ananias, according to Acts 22 and 12, he was a devout man, and devout men were only denoted to be Israelites as far as we have seen. So when we go back to Acts 10 and 2, Cornelius, right here, he was a devout man. He was one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. If we look into Acts 10 and 3, it says he saw in a vision about the 9th hour The ninth hour, is like from 2 to 3 p.m. of the day. So about around that time, it says an angel of God came to him. Angel came to him. Let's look up another precept right quick. This is in the Apocryphal books, Tobit 12 and 15. It says, I am Raphael, one of the 7 angels who stands and serves before the glory of the Lord. So, Tobit 12 and 15 in the Apocrypha. I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels which present the prayers of the saints and which go in and out before the glory of the holy. Raphael is one of the 7 holy angels which present the what? Present the prayers of the saints. So when you go back to Acts 10 and 3, Cornelius was praying like from 2 to 3 p.m. of the day. And it said, an angel of God came to him and said unto him, Cornelius. Acts 10 and 4. When he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said to him, thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before God. So in Acts 10 and 3, this angel had to be Raphael according to the precepts. Thy prayers and thy alms are come up. This is Tobit 12 and 15 in the 1611 Bible, in the Apocrypha. Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels, which presents the prayers of the saints. So Cornelius, he was a saint because his prayers were heard. Raphael, presenting the prayers of the saints. Who are the saints? Let's see who are the saints. This is Psalms 50 and verse 5. It says, gather to me my saints who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Who the only nation that made a covenant with the Most High by sacrifice? That's Israel. So Psalms 50 and 5. Gather to me my saints who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. If you never made a covenant with the Most High by sacrifice, you're not his saints. Gather my saints together to me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. That's Israel. We already saw that the holy angel Raphael, he presented the prayers of the saints. Where in Acts chapter 10 verse 4, Cornelius' prayers came up for a memorial before God. That's how you know, according to the precepts there, he was a saint as well, being an Israelite. But he was not a Jew from the kingdom of Judah. He was a Israelite from the northern house, northern Israel. I'm going to go on down with it. Don't want to hold you guys that long. Let's look at Acts 10 and 8. And when he declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. Acts 10 and 9. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh to the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And that's Acts 10 and 9. Acts 10 and 10. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. It's just like a sleep. He went to sleep. He went to sleep upon the housetop, right? Or when it says he fell into a trance, he went to sleep and had a dream, like a vision or something. Acts 10 and 11. He saw heaven open and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it been a great sheet at the four corners let down of the earth. When you're dealing with these four corners here, you're dealing with the Israelites, because the Israelites were scattered in the four corners of the earth. Let me give you a precept. Deuteronomy 32 and 26. I said I would scatter them into the corners. So the Israelites were scattered into the corners of the earth, north, south, east, and west. They were dispersed. I would make the remembrance of them, being the Israelites, to cease from among man. So the Israelites was dispersed in all nations, and also they lost their nationality of who they were. This is Deuteronomy 32 and 26. Moses said he would scatter them into the corners. That's the Israelites. When you go back to Acts 10 and 11, Peter, in a vision, saw a vessel open up in heaven, and the sheet was knit at the four corners. Four corners and let down to the earth. That represents the locations of the Israelites where they were scattered at, the four corners in Acts 10 and 11. Deuteronomy 32 and 26 is the precept, I will scatter them into the corners. You can also look at Matthew 24 and 31. Matthew 24 and 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds. That's like the corners, from the four winds and from the end of heaven to the other. Now the elect is talking about the chosen Israelites that's keeping and rehearsing God's commandments. Says that he would gather together his elect from the four winds. Thus the four corners in Acts 10 and 11. That's the Israelites. Acts 10 and 12. Wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. So when this sheet was let down, Peter saw unclean animals in this sheet. It's not talking about actual unclean animals, but the unclean animals represented the northern Israelites at that time, because they were unclean. They was unfit to be the Lord's children, because he gave northern Israel a bill of divorce in historical times. Let me show you that precept. This is Jeremiah 8 and 5. He gave northern Israel a bill of divorce. However, he showed mercy on Judah. Jeremiah 8 and 5. Why then is the people of Jerusalem slidden back by a perpetual backsliding? They hold fast deceit. They refuse to return. Jeremiah 3 and 1. They say if a man put away his wife and she go from him, that man right there is talking about the Most High. And he's just using this as a custom in Jerusalem, because in Jerusalem, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, he can't return to her again. This dealing with the Most High when he gave the northern Israelites a bill of divorce. Now remember what I told you, that Cornelius was a northern Israelite. He was not of the southern kingdom. So the Most High being this man, being the groom of Israel, northern Israel and southern Israel, because that's why sometimes the Bible will say that, they call northern and southern Israel sisters. The Most High, I think he found this woman to be unworthy. He gave a bill of divorce and he didn't return to her again. But Christ did, to adopt them in again. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Shall not that land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot. He's talking about northern Israel with many lovers, talking about many other nations, Gentile nations. Yet return again to me, say the Lord. So he kept telling northern Israel to stop the idolatry and return to him. But northern Israel didn't do it. Northern Israel wanted to mingle with other nations. And so, as a result, Jeremiah 3 and 8. And I saw when all the causes where backsliding Israel committed adultery, I put her away. So, this is what the Most High did to the northern kingdom. Remember, Cornelius belonged to the northern kingdom. I put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah, that's the southern kingdom, because he referred to the northern and southern kingdom as sisters. Treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played a harlot also. So Judah was doing the same thing, but the Most High had mercy on Judah. Jeremiah 3 and 9. It came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery. It's talking about northern and southern Israel, but northern kingdom was like far worse. Jeremiah 3 and 10. And yet for all this her treacherous sister Judah had not turned unto me with her whole heart, but faintly said to the Lord, so forth. But Jeremiah 3 and 11. And the Lord said unto me, backsliding Israel have justified herself more treacherous than Judah. So the Most High said northern Israel is off the chain. They far worse than southern Israel. Now Cornelius was a northerner Israelite. What did he do to the northern kingdom of Israel? He gave her a bill of divorce. He put her away. Right here in Jeremiah chapter 3 as we read it. So after he put northern Israel away, he gave a disclaimer to the southern kingdom of Judah to not have any dealings with the northern kingdom anymore. So I'm giving you the history so you can see that Cornelius, being a northern kingdom Israelite, and not a southern kingdom Israelite, being a Jew. Let's look at Hosea 4 and 15. So this is a warning that was given to Judah after the Most High divorced the northern Israelites. Hosea 4 and 15. Even though you prostitute yourself, Israel, let not Judah incur guilt. Don't go to Gilgal or visit Bethaven or swear an oath using the Lord's name. So this is a warning to the Jews. Watch this. Hosea 4:16. It says, for Israel is obstinate as a stubborn heifer. Talk about northern kingdom. You are nothing more than a stubborn cow, so stubborn that I, the Lord, cannot feed you like lambs in an open pasture. For Israel have gone astray. Northern kingdom, that's what we're talking about. Israel has slided back as a backsliding heifer. Now the Lord will feed them as a lamb in the Lord's place. Now Hosea 4:17. Hosea 4:17. It said, Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. So he was giving this warning to the Jews. Don't have any dealings with the northern kingdom no more. That's what he was telling the southern kingdom. Because Israel became a servant nation after Solomon sinned. So he tells the Jews to leave the northern kingdom alone. Let him alone. That's talking about Ephraim. Ephraim is another name for the northern house of Israel. Hosea 4:17. Ephraim is joined to idols. Leave him alone. That's what he tells the Jews. I don't want you dealing with the northern Israelites no more. Ephraim is joined to idols. Leave him alone. Ephraim, being the dormant tribe, gave his name to the northern kingdom. See that? Ephraim, being the dormant tribe, gave its name to the northern kingdom. So that's another name for the northern Israelites. Ephraim. What was told to the Jews in Hosea 4:17, they was given a warning to leave the northern Israelites alone. This is why the Messiah tells this Samaritan this as well in Matthew the 4th chapter. Matthew the 4th chapter. Watch this. Watch what the Messiah tells this Samaritan in Matthew the 4th chapter. I believe it's somewhere. Let's see. It's in Matthew the 4th chapter. My mistake. It's John the 4th chapter. Now watch this. It says this is what the Messiah told this woman, because the Messiah was a southern kingdom Israelite, not a northern kingdom, being a Jew. So the Messiah, being a Jew, he already knew what was up according to Hosea 4:17. The message that was given to the Jews, not to deal no longer with the northern Israelites. So in John 4, he said, he tell the Samaritan, you worship what you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Why he said salvation is of the Jews? Because the northern kingdom of Israel was given a bill of divorce. And so after that disclaimer, the Jews being told not to deal with Ephraim anymore, then it was just salvation that was catered to the Jews. That's why the Messiah told the Samaritan that, because in the Messiah time, he being a Jew, they wasn't dealing with the northerners, the northern Israelites, right? So keep in mind that the gospel was being preached to the Jews only up until Acts the 11th chapter, when it was open to the northern Israelites again, the same northern kingdom that the Most High gave a bill of divorce, to reunite them as the nation of Israel again, to reunite the northern kingdom back into the fold. This is Acts 11 and 19. Now they were scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephen, traveled as far as Phoenix and Cyprus and Antioch, preaching the word none but unto the Jews only. So all the way up into Acts the 11th chapter, salvation was being preached to the Jews only. Why is that? Because that disclaimer that the Jews was given back in Hosea 4:17, the Jews was given a warning not to deal with northern Israelites after the Most High gave them a bill of divorce, because you can clearly see it says Ephraim is joined to idols. Leave him alone. So that's what was told to the Jews. So after that, the Jews only focusing on the southern Israelites, not the northerns. You have to know this history. So this is why salvation was being preached to the Jews only all the way up until after the Most High gave the northern kingdom the bill of divorce, all the way up into Acts the 11th chapter. After Acts the 11th chapter, the northern kingdom Israelites, being the Gentiles, they was granted salvation to come back into the fold. This is what it's talking about with Cornelius and stuff. So that's why when Peter saw this vision, it says there came to him a voice, rise, kill. There came to him a voice, rise, Peter, kill and eat. Acts 10 and 14. But Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Now these unclean beasts represents the northern Israelites. Acts 10 and 15. And the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God has cleansed, that call not thou coming. So in other words, what the Most High have cleansed, don't call it unclean. Now what the Most High cleansed? He cleansed he gave the opportunity back to the northern Israelites to come back to him after he gave them a bill of divorce. Now how did he do this? He did it through his son Christ to redeem them. You see what I'm saying? Not all nations, just to redeem the northern Israelites that he gave a bill of divorce. They come back into the fold to be the whole house of Israel. You see, a lot of people thinking about this is talking about all nations being given the opportunity to be adopted and come back. No, it's talking about northern kingdom of Israel, the same kingdom he divorced. And Peter was part of the northern kingdom. All right, and so Acts 10 and 17. Now while Peter doubted in himself what the vision which he had seen should be, because he didn't know at the time, behold, a man which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry of Simon's house, and stood before the gate. Acts 10 and 18. And called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, was lodged there. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut to the chase. Go ahead and cut to the chase. Let's go ahead and get to the bottom of it. Acts 10 and 25. And as Peter was coming, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet, worshiped him. Acts 10 and 26. But Peter took him, saying, Stand up, I myself also am a man. Acts 10 and 27. As he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. Acts 10 and 28. He said unto him, You know that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew. Peter was a Jew, to keep company or come into another nation, Cornelius being a northern Israelite. But God have showed me that I should not call any man. So this ain't have nothing to do with literal animals. The unclean animals represented the northern Israelites that was unclean after the Most High gave them a bill of divorce. And also they was unclean by showing themselves not to be loyal to the Most High, because they was heavy in idolatry. So the Most High gave the northern kingdom of Israel a right to come back into the fold by sending his son Christ. But God have showed me that I should not call any man coming to unclean. So basically, don't call the northern kingdom unclean no more. Because remember back in Hosea 4:17, the Jews was told to leave Ephraim alone. But then, here, In Acts 10 and 28, the Most High is giving the permission for the Jews to be reunited back to the northern kingdom. So don't call them unclean no more. They got just as much as the rights as the Jews, to be entitled to salvation. That's what it's talking about. Many people get tripped up on when it says Peter being a Jew to keep company of another nation. But that's what happened when Israel became split. The southern and northern kingdom of Israel was known as two nations, and I'll show you that. This is Ezekiel chapter 37, and I'm going to show you that it was called two nations. Ezekiel 37, this is the history. Ezekiel 37, let's go down to the 21st verse. It says, "And say unto them, thus said the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen." Because that's where we at. We scattered out among the heathen. "Whether they be gone, I will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land." That prophecy is yet to be fulfilled. Ezekiel 37:22, "And I will make them one nation." You see that? Because we're not one nation right now. It's ultimately the prophecies are not fulfilled in its entirety. So we're not one nation right now. The northern Israelites being Hispanics, southern Israelites being Negroes. "I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be to them." The one king is talking about the Messiah. "And they shall be no more two nations." See, it ain't going to be no northern and southern Israel, because it was only northern and southern Israel after the split. But when the Most High unite us, and when Israel is united in the Messiah, there will be no more two nations. And this is the prophecy taking place here back in Acts chapter 10 dealing with Cornelius, because it ain't going to be no more two nations. Neither shall there be divided kingdoms anymore at all. So that's why the Most High was telling Peter not to call what's coming unclean. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why Peter, being a Jew, is not no unlawful thing anymore for a man that is a Jew to keep company of the northern house of Israel. It's not unlawful no more. You're given the right now. You've been given that right to reunite with the northern kingdom, because I told you, Hosea 4:17 told the Jews to leave the northern Israelites alone. But now you've been given that right. And the northern Israelites been given that right to come back. You see what I'm saying? So when it says of another nation, don't think it's a Gentile nation. No, Israel was known as two nations after the split. This also proves here. Romans 9:1. This is what Paul said. He says, the Israelites in Romans 9:4, to whom pertaineth the adoption. The adoption, what is the adoption? The adoption is the death of the Messiah that allowed the northern Israelites to be back into the fold, back into with the Jews. Because this is the very reason why the Messiah died. Because when he died, he adopted back in the northerners, the northern Israelites, to be one nation again. That's why we in the book of Acts. This is after the death of Christ. So, it's not unlawful no more, because the death of Christ have redeemed the northern Israelites to be one nation again. Whereas before, when the Most High gave them a bill of divorce, the Jews was told not to deal with the northern Israelites. But now, since the death of Christ, he have adopted the northern Israelites back in to the Jews, so they can be one nation again. This is the prophecy being unraveled here. You see what I'm saying? This is why I also says this in Galatians. Galatians 3 and 13, it says the Messiah has redeemed us from the curse of the law. See, to be redeemed is to buy back, you know what I'm saying? Being made a curse for us, for his written curses everyone that hangeth on the tree. So the Messiah redeemed us. Who is the us? That's the Israelites. He redeemed us. How he redeemed the Israelites? By his death. And then let's look at this one. Ephesians 2 and 14. For he is our peace, who have made both one. You see what I'm saying? That's after the split of the northern and southern Israel. So remember when Israel became a divided nation, the Messiah is, that's why his death is very essential, because his death, reunited the nation of Israel. If the Messiah didn't die, then they would never be the two kingdoms both made one. So the Messiah, for he is our peace, who have made both one. The northern Israelites and southern Israelites, whereas way long ago, they was two nations. So he have made both one, and have broken down the middle wall, or partition between us, the middle wall, broken down that barrier, because it was told to the Jews not to deal with the northern Israelites because they was joining the idols. So after the Messiah came, what the Most High did is revise the plan on how to redeem the northern Israelites that he divorced back to the Jews by sending his son to do what? To redeem them, to make both one through his death, and to break down the middle wall. You see what I'm saying? So this Cornelius thing, Cornelius is not a Gentile, man. Cornelius is a northern Israelite. Now let me bring it on home. So let's look at Acts 15, because Acts 15 is when the Most High had first visit the northern Israelites. After he had gave them a bill of divorce. Here's some more history on Cornelius being an Israelite. Acts 15 verse, let's look at 14. Acts 15 and 14, it says Simon, now that's Peter, because remember Peter was sent to Cornelius. So Simon Peter has declared how God at first did visit the Gentiles. That's talking about the northern Israelites, not all nations, to take out of them a people for his name. Now this is the history, Acts 15 and 15, and to disagree the words of the prophets as is written. So Acts 15:16. After this I will return and I will build again the tabernacles of David, which is fallen down, and I will bring again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. So you can see right there, this is talking about the historical event on Cornelius. You see what I'm saying? Acts 15 and 14. Simon had declared how God at first did visit the Gentiles. Who was the first one that God visited? It was Cornelius, to take out of them a people for his name. And to this degree, the words of the prophets as is written. So when Cornelius was visited by Peter, this is the prophecy being fulfilled, because Simon Peter declared it. So if God did visit the Gentiles, who was the first one he visited? It was Cornelius. Now what was said historically? The words of the prophets, Acts 15 and 16. I will return and I will build again the tabernacle of David. So Cornelius was from the tabernacle of David. The tabernacle of David is talking about the nation of Israel. Cornelius is just from the northern part. The tabernacle of David that was falling down was Israel after it became a servant nation. So the Most High visit the tabernacles of David, which was falling down, and I will build it back up again in the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. That's the prophecy being fulfilled, how there will be no more northern and southern Israel. It will be just nation of Israel united in Christ again. So that's how you can see that Cornelius, he was a northern Israelite, man, and not a Gentile, because this is actually pulling from Amos 9 and 11. So let's go there. Amos 9:11. Here's the history to it. The restoration of Israel. So this is what's going on. This is why Peter was sent to Cornelius, because this was talking about the prophecy of the restoration of Israel being fulfilled in full effect. In that day I will raise up the tabernacles of David. Tabernacles of David, the nation of Israel that became split. That is fallen during the days of Solomon, because it became servant. Nation of Israel did. I will close up the breaches. I will close up the breaches. It would be no northern and southern Israel no more. It would be no southern Jews of Israel and the house of northern house of Israel. I'm closing up the breaches thereof, and I will rise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. Because in the days of old, Israel was not divided. Israel was one nation under King David in the days of old. In the days of old, Israel was one nation, on the King Saul. You see what I'm saying? So that's the history right there. So yeah, Peter did declare how God first visited Cornelius to take them out a people for his name, agreeing to what the prophets had said historically. I will return, I will return, and I will build again the tabernacles of David. So that's the tabernacles of David being built back up, which was falling down when Peter made that, interaction with Cornelius to build it again, as the days of old. That's how you know that Cornelius was an Israelite from the northern house. He was not a Gentile in general. So I hope this lesson, guys, I hope it rings a bell. I hope. Because I did it several times, man. I can't do this lesson enough. But yeah, Cornelius was an Israelite from the northern house. The tabernacles of David again to the 12 tribes. So, guys, tell me what you think about it. Share this video with family and friends. And what more can I say? Read more. Pray for discernment. Pray that the Most High open your understanding and help somebody else, man. Rise, Israel. Until next lesson, shalom.